Okay.
Welcome to the Workspace Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce, Town of Manchester Department of Planning and Economic Development and Connecticut Small Business Development Center Business Sustainability Update. We've got no fancy graphics or PowerPoint, not that the others that we've had in the past have been fancy. I'm Stacy of Workspace, and Shelly of the Connecticut Small Business Development Center is here to answer any questions you have, as well as provide some current updates now that it's April 23rd, 2020. Now you may begin.
Thank you. And I wanted to just kind of put it out there if anybody has any questions first, and then it'll either lead into the updates or I'll just go into that. Does anybody have any questions?
I have questions. Do you know if any, I'm Nancy, I live in Tolland and I own a small restaurant. Do you know if anything is being done with the PPP and the forgiveness portion of it for the restaurant industry? Because it's a big problem as far as
the PPP program is the Protected Paycheck loan program. That is SBA money, but it is being funded and dispersed through the banks.
Correct.
So have you applied?
I have it. I just haven't signed my paperwork.
Okay.
I'm reluctant to sign my paperwork because as soon as I sign it, my 8 weeks starts, and who knows when we're going to be reopened.
Correct.
There's nothing.
And there's nothing as of right now, which leads into the kind of the next funding period of the PPP. You have no idea if, in fact, anything's going to change. It is 8 weeks, and it's really June 30th is the date you have to have your full staff back. Now, is that going to change if you can't open? I would imagine there would have to be some covenants. There would have to be some leeway. If, in fact, your town says, no, you can't open, now you can't bring back people. So I would stand to say that there's some conversation still to be had around that. And that is really the slippery slope. What I have said in past updates for the PPP is once you get the money, that doesn't mean you have to bring your workers back ASAP. You just have to have full staff, right? And have full staff by June 30th and start using your PPP.
The way I understood it was that the forgiveness piece was for that 8 weeks and what I used in that 8 weeks.
Right. So if you start bringing back you'll use it. Maybe it's not for all of full time out of the gate, right? Because you don't need them out of the gate.
Right.
This is some unclear information that we don't even have. I am the Small Business Development Center, which is a program of the SBA. So I don't have like direct information until it is disseminated to me.
Right. Do you know if there's a discussion of them changing?
So right now, no, because they are still in round 2. I think when I get to the updates of round 2, they're probably going to have to, because people are not going to have their money. They're going to have it within a 6-week period of June 30th. They're not going to have it. And you might not even get it until mid-May. So you don't know.
I'm reluctant right now to sign the paperwork because, I mean, it's sitting there. I have it right here, but I'm not signing it. I'm waiting my 10 days.
Well, and that's entirely up to you. What I have suggested and what I do suggest to all my clients is, look, sign it, take the money, hold on to it. If you're not going to use it, you have your guidelines as how to use it. You can give it back. You can give it back on the idle. So it's a
penalty.
So the penalty is that it terms out to 1% loan. And every bank, so here's now another thing. Every bank is different.
Right.
Okay.
I have to notify them in writing. Borrower may prepay 20% or less of the unpaid principal balance at the time without notice. If I want to prepay more, I have to give them written notice. and also pay, you know, interest and whatnot.
Right.
on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So if you were to really do the formula and put that all out at the end, if you come July and say, I need a loan to keep going, it's going to be far exceeding what you're signing now.
Right.
And it's just a matter of playing that little game, right? Okay, if I want to give you money back, I got to let you know. If I need more money, I got to let you know. If I don't want it, I got to, that's it. I can't, nobody can predict when we're going to open. And I guess it's still one of those uncertainties. And while the money is there and you have been approved, because there are people who are not going to get money, you know, just weigh those options, because you do have an opportunity to not use it, but have it. And again, you can use your 25% for rent and utilities and interest on other rental pieces. So
the way that I also understood that is that that has to coincide with the 75%. Like, I just can't take 25% and say, okay, I'm going to use that for rent and utilities and use nothing for payroll and get the whole thing forgiven. And
correct. It has to be a 75-25 split.
Right.
So if you use 50% of your 100, so that 50,000, 75% of it has to be used for payroll, and the other 20. Yeah, yes, it does have to coincide with those percentages.
Right.
But I also kind of try and it's a tough time. It's strange times, but to make really harsh decisions under emotional like distress, I would you know suggest just take your time, but you know there's other people who are not going to have what you have in front of you, and again you have the option to, so you got to let them know. So there's a penalty, fine, it's more than, you know, not as much as it would have been. So again, this is all fluid, and I you know I can't tell you what to do. You'll have to make that ultimate call, but nothing is written in stone, because it's unknown. We've only gotten through phase one. You know, some of my colleagues are working on the forgiveness calculator so that it'll be easy for everybody to figure out what can be forgiven and what's going to be what. And so that's kind of the next phase. But it's easy and it's frustrating, and none of this has been a smooth process because we just don't know what's coming down. And you know, I really applaud you for going through what you have to go through. It's not easy. I have several clients, a lot of clients who are restaurants, and you know, they're doing what they can, and that's all that, you know, anybody can expect of you. And so, you know.
Do you also know, do you have any idea when the HEDCO loan is going to be funded? The grant, the line of credit, the HEDCO line of credit?
No, so they're still weeding through those, and they have asked for more money. So you know, I don't know if it was first come, first serve. I think what happened was you could apply, but if you didn't have all your stuff together and into them, then you were still kind of at the back of the line. So I think that's how they're operating. But again, I know that they were about halfway through their funds and they requested more because there were so many coming in, and they came kind of late to the table, which was fine because it's going to serve a need. So did you apply for that as well?
I did.
Okay,
I
okay.
got a phone call saying that they had everything they needed. And
Good.
So that was, you know, like the Tuesday after it opened.
Last week, yeah. So we could go Tuesday, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I would really prefer to get, because that will help me way more than I think the PPP is going to wind up helping me.
Right. Well, they're both the same. So the line of credit through HEDCO is also forgivable. So they are the same money. It's the same SBA money. So it's all going to have the same, maybe not a timeline. HEDCO might not have the timeline, right? So
it doesn't have the stipulation of the 75-25.
Right. So, but that, I think they were being generous when they did that. knowing that people needed the money not just for payroll.
Right.
They needed it for rent, and they needed a little bit more.
Restaurants not 75% of our business.
Right. So, yeah, and we can talk offline if you need to more on this one.
Thank you for
I have a question that can be answered fairly quickly, I believe,
Sure.
and it relates to what you were just discussing with Nancy about the approval for PPP. We've had that approval. We've been notified by email, and then it says you have 10 days to sign your documents. We haven't received the documents. So is it 10 days from the time that they say you're approved, we hope we get the documents to you, or is it 10 days from the time those documents show up in the inbox?
So I can't answer that because every bank is disseminating those differently. And maybe
and they're not answering.
Well, no, you know why? They're so, I can truly, it's hard, right? Like, I am frustrated because they're not communicating, but I also understand that if you think about it, every single person is trying to call them, and there's no way that they can do the PPP and answer those phone calls knowing that they're going to be answering the same question over and over. So if it's not in their docs, I would email them back, and instead of calling, if there's an email.
Yeah, it's an unmonitored box. But Nancy, who's your bank, may I ask? Sorry,
I'm just trying to shovel down some fruit. KeyBank was my bank.
All right, so you got that's the bank we're going through. So you received.
It's fantastic. They've been fantastic. And if you went through KeyBank, you couldn't actually even apply until that Monday the 6th.
Can you tell us the process? How did you get your documents, documents you have to sign? How did you get them?
They sent them to me. So they sent them to me via email yesterday. So my banker's she's been wonderful. So all through the process, it was like, okay, so we have your documents. Here it is. KeyBank actually gave us a tracker, like in one of the emails that we got. And so we were able to click on the link so we can see where it was. Once it got to the SBA, then she either she did, somebody at the bank did. We got an email saying the SBA approved it.
Right.
Here's the amount. Be on the lookout for the loan documents that you're not going to need to DocuSign. That was last Thursday, I believe it was, and I wound up getting the documents yesterday.
Okay, so there you go. So it takes about a week.
I have another friend that he got his documents on Tuesday.
So it's typically from the time you receive your documents, Donna.
And it's 10 days?
Yes. Yeah, because my guess would be because if it's not, then you take 3 days and you get it back to them. But I would guess. So Nancy, on your documents, what date is on there?
The 22nd.
Okay, so exactly. So it should come through the date you get your emails, the date of the documents, and then you have 10 days from there.
Right.
So keep an email. So keep a watch out for that.
All right.
Did you get the email with the tracker?
Yes.
Okay, so then you can see where that is, and then you just need to wait for your documents.
Well, yeah, we're all approved as of the 16th, and then they said just when you get your documents. But we need, this is very specific, so I'm sorry for taking time with that.
No, but approval is different, right? When you approve, that means your funds are allocated. You're going to get them. But now they have to do the documents, okay? And that takes a few days. And then they get to them. Once, and this is under SBA ruling, they have 10 days from the time you get the documents and sign them to give you and disperse that money.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where that 10 days
That's what I need to know.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, these are like the gritty details that are not explained, right? And it's all going to surface, and some people don't pay attention to that, and that's okay. It works for them, and some it doesn't. And that's not good, but any other questions on the
Thank
docket there?
There have been a couple of questions under your chat. I think 3 different people
Okay.
asked questions. So you probably want to check that.
Or I can just ask the question.
There you go.
Is that Joe's?
Yeah.
Joseph?
Hey, Tana.
Hi.
With the PPP, we've applied for all 3 and we were among the first. And we haven't gotten anything yet. But my understanding is there's at least 2 of them are in the pipeline and about to happen. With the PPP, and you may have talked about this because I didn't hop on till like 3 minutes after 2, but with the PPP, my understanding is the 60-day window starts as soon as you take the funds, and you have to take the funds, you know, within that 10-day period as well. And again, the question is, and you started talking, at least I came in and you were talking about it. What if you can't bring them back right away? Or what if you're not ready to bring them back? I mean, does that window move or is it fixed?
As of right now, it's a fixed window. Everything has to be employee. So as of, you know, prior to February 15th, however many employees you had,
Right.
you now have to ramp up and have the same amount of employees by June 30th. That does not, from my understanding, that does not mean when you get the funds, you've got to bring everybody back and just have them twiddling their thumbs.
See, that's what I thought. You have to disperse the funds as allocated within the 60 days. And the only way to do that is to have them start working, you know, immediately. Otherwise, you're not going to generate enough payroll within that 60-day period.
Right. So just so you know, I'm not the SBA, so I don't have all these clear.
Right.
Everything is fluid.
And well, guess what?
They don't have
Neither do they.
Correct. They don't. And that's why I you know, some people aren't even going to get the second round of funds, PPP, until mid-May, maybe end of May. Okay. And then what happens to their 60 days, right? So I think it is going to come up as far as conversation. And it you know, if you aren't able to open up in your town, you're not able to generate revenue. How are you even, does it matter if you bring people back? I think those conversations, once all of this is dispersed and people have their money, there's no more conversation, can't apply. That's when a lot of things probably are going to be revisited. I would think, given the timing. I mean, how can they expect something when you aren't open? So
well,
I don't have that
everything
answer.
I'm given.
Yeah,
I'm going to take it all, and then at the end, okay, then decide what to do with it.
That's my point. And there might be some, you know, penalty. If you have a penalty, so be it. At least if you need it, you have it. And if the conversation flows and you're able to request an extension.
There's no penalty. It's just.
Well, it goes into a term loan.
Certain of it, you might not be able to get all of it forgiven. That's all. But there's no penalty per se.
No, and it goes into a term loan at 1%.
Right.
But you know, you just have to. I suggest people just take it, apply for it, and again, once you get it, it's there. The idle loan, if you don't want it, you can reject it. You can give it back without penalty. So we have no idea how long this is going to last. You know, they may get to the end of the 8 weeks and go, we're not even going to track it because we can't. I don't know. So it's really hard to even answer. And you know, I apologize, but it's just how things are going. There's nothing.
What's your take been on, you know, idle so far? How many people have gotten the advance and how many people have been invited to the portal? I've been told I will be invited to the portal, but I haven't been invited to a portal yet.
That's the only info.
Nor have we received the, you know, the 10,000, which is now going to be 3,000. But
Well,
Nothing's
you
been
know,
funded.
I have my own personal takes on those.
Yeah.
But you know, what I do know and some of the indicators of the idle, it's been a very low percentage that has received my funds. And I think it's maybe 23% have been invited to the portal, as you call it,
Yeah.
or approved or said it's in process. And it still leaves a huge chunk that have not even been acknowledged. So the one indicator that I have seen is that if you have received your advance, okay, which is not, by the way, within 3 days of when you submit, don't believe that, and it won't happen.
Oh gosh, of course not.
So
We were first to submit.
yeah. Well, so
Weekly.
did you apply a second time, or did you only submit once?
I submitted once, probably 10 minutes after the streamlined one came out.
Okay, so you did on the 30th of March.
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
got it in there.
So that was not the first. That was the second version.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
So my point is there's a trigger that we have seen, and that's if you have received your advance, more than likely your loan is either in process or it's been looked at or it's somewhere in that first tranche. Okay.
Mhm.
If you haven't, and I still have clients still getting that, right? They're still getting the advance.
Right.
If you haven't, my guess is that you're in the queue for the second round. Why, how, what, who knows? And that, I could be a liar tomorrow and you could get it all. It comes unannounced. So again, that's the only queue that we've ever been able to pinpoint. Otherwise, it is as free for all as the application process was.
Well, they checked our
It
Yeah,
is, it does
they've
come
done credit
unannounced.
checks
we
and all
got an
that.
alert that said
Yeah.
that we got that checked.
What about
Well,
state of Connecticut?
and that I have nothing on.
Okay.
Nothing on. Nothing, absolutely nothing.
State of Connecticut ECD bridge loan.
Yeah.
I last week I also got paperwork for that. It could have been this week. Every day.
The questionnaire or actual loan paperwork?
It was something from SoFi.
Correct.
All right, that's who they're going through is
The
SoFi.
questionnaire.
Yeah,
That's
So-
as far as I've gotten.
right.
I did
So,
get.
I don't want to. Right.
My $10,000, and that just came unannounced. I opened up my bank account and I was like, "Holy cow! Wow!"
Yeah. So that's
Email,
how-
no portal, no anything.
right. It is so enormous, and I know we're so used to structure, and especially around banking and financing, that they're going to tap and ask you 20 million questions before you get a dime. So this is really unprecedented, where money just shows up. They are just not capable, at the enormity of being able to say, "Oh, be on the lookout for your X amount of money." No, just the account number comes up, it's been approved, it goes in. Obviously, the banking industry and the PPP is a little different. And I know the idle people have been contacted by phone, others have been by email. So there is no structure. So I don't want to be like, there's really no answer. And I appreciate questions. I would like to give some updated information that I have in regards to the second tranche, which obviously Joseph would be probably where you are on the idle. And just because I know we have about 5 or 10 minutes left before we are really
7
literally
to be
kicked off.
exact.
Okay. So what we do at the SBDC is we do not disseminate any information that we are unsure of from the SBA. And everybody's been hearing about this second tranche, and it's coming through and should be signed today, and it'll be starting to be given out tomorrow and whatnot. So it is actually still sitting in the Library of Congress. It has not been sent on to be signed yet. Maybe this afternoon, maybe tomorrow. But usually, if it's still sitting in the library, it is not typically ready to be signed within the same day. So having said that, if it gets signed tomorrow, that's great. It still then needs to go to the SBA, which needs about 24 hours of business time. So we're looking at early next week for it to actually come to fruition. And that is for both the EIDL and the PPP. Now, the EIDL, I did find out no new applications. It's just people are going to sit in the queue. But what we do not know is if there are any different processes or restrictions or eligibilities or non-eligibilities. We don't know that. So that is the one key that we'll all be aware of at the same time.
Shelly, could you just clarify? You just said that with the new EIDL funds, there will be no new applications.
To my aware, we have been told that there will not be a new application. So if there was a new application, that would put everybody in a different lineup. So people like Joseph, who applied on 330, but his has been bypassed or for whatever reason, would then be kicked out and everybody would have to start over. So applications are in. They're going to sit where they are and be, you know, what we've been told, right? Yeah, first come, first serve. But what's happening now is the ability to apply is not open yet again.
Okay.
So those who have applied are still in the queue. Once the second round of funds becomes available, okay, people can then go on to the SBA website and apply if they haven't already. These are for new applicants, and get into the queue, meaning get into
I understand now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joseph had, I'm sorry, Joseph had made a comment about the $10,000 advance dropping down to $3,000. I hadn't heard about that. Could you just?
No, it is
$1,000 per employee.
It's up to $2,000.
I gotcha.
1,000 per employee, depending on how many employees you said you had.
Perfect. Thank you.
Originally, it was going to be a blanket 10 for everybody, and then they looked at how many applicants they had, and they said, "Oh my God," you know. And
no, it always said up to, because we looked at that too, going, they changed it on us. No, it always said up to, and you know, I would have liked to thought that everybody would have gotten 10,000, and that would have been great. But yeah, no, it's always been.
I know what's going on with all of these. They're basically trying to put out a forest fire with a garden hose.
Because it is a fire. So, and just for the sake of time, because literally we will shut down because we only have 40 minutes. So the one thing that has been added is FinTech approved lenders. These are important pieces because there are people who have not applied yet who do not have banking relationships. Those people can go to all of these FinTech lenders. They are listed. I know the Chamber has been out with them. They're on their lists of PayPal, QuickBooks, Cabbage, On Deck, all of those, what I call shark loan companies. But they are under the same SBA guidelines. So they cannot charge you. They're not going to be making a dime off of this, but they have been approved to be part of this process. So the expanded funds are about 480 million, 60 billion towards the EIDL, 310 towards the PPP, plus the 10 up to 10,000 advance that's included in that. And then, you know, after that, this is when we need to start thinking about what's next and start thinking about how we're going to reopen. You know, how the restaurants have been doing takeout and they've adjusted, but now they're going to reopen. What does that look like? They got to get rid of half of their tables. What is the industry standards going to be? So forth and so on. So that's kind of, I know that we're thinking about, well, I need my funds, I need my money. And yes, but to kind of shift the thinking and mindset to, okay, I know that that's going to come and I can't control when, but let me start thinking about how I'm going to reopen. What are the requirements that are going to be of me? What am I going to need? Are there other resources, whether it be from independent companies or the town or chambers or whatever? We have to start kind of thinking in that kind of realm. Bring our mindset back to okay, the money's going to come when the money's going to come, but now what do I need to do to start preparing to reopen? And part of that will be starting next Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Myself, Stacy, the chamber, we have all collaborated. I will be doing a webinar on business resiliency, keeping the lights on. And it will be, the first one is identifying. And we are going to absolutely sprinkle a lot of identifying what needs to happen to reopen. And it is a 4-part series. Will happen every Wednesday at 11. Each Wednesday will go on to the next kind of step. The first one we're gonna do the identifying. The next will be, okay, planning. Like, what kind of resources did everybody find? Now we can start planning to gather these. Then implement, and then really at that point the recovery stage and reopening. So it's just kind of moving things along and gathering, just as if we're a new business to some extent. So we're going to kind of do that.
I want to take this minute to thank you, Shelly. Shelly, what's your email
Thank you.
address?
Is michelle.koehler@uconn.edu. And that's
Great.
MICHELLE.KOEHLER